So it's Sunday morning and we are alive. We've survived another week. And this is probably going to be a bit disjointed. It's probably going to be very disjointed because it's a bit of a rant and a bit of a week that was and all of those things. And I've been finding my way with this whole video thing and YouTube thing. And trying to work out what would make it worthwhile or what people would want to watch. And a thing that keeps reoccurring is I keep coming back to the fact that not many people on the planet actually want to see the truth. They're quite happy with delusion, they're quite happy with distraction, they're quite happy with things being just comfortable enough to get by and ignoring the reality of what's going on and the influence of the politicians and all of the rest of the nonsense, the system as it were. So you're going to have to bear with me a little bit here because this is probably going to hop around all over the show. And I guess if you've listened to any of my other stuff where we've had a couple of people talking about things, you know, the type of stuff that I used to do with Paul, I can go off at a tangent quite easily. One of the reasons for that is that all of these issues add up to a multifaceted problem with the system of life and our general existence. They add up to a thing the magnitude of which is difficult to comprehend. So I tend to bounce around a little bit and all of that. So you're going to have to bear with me. Another thing you should do with this particular video is brace yourself, because there might be the odd expletive or two used as punctuation. And that mainly engendered by my frustration with people and their selfishness and their inability or lack of care and lack of concern about their effect on other people. Yeah. And while I'm quantifying this whole thing, I think you can see that this is outside. I'm not too interested in making this into a Spielberg class cinematic record. I think one of the reasons I'm doing these things now is because of what I see as the need to have some record of my thinking. I've spoken about this in the past at on many occasions and to many people, and I'm quite sure that a number of you watching this will probably already know my thinking in this regard. And that is that human beings seem to be incredibly clever, but also incredibly stupid, and they don't seem to learn worth a damn. Humanity doesn't seem to have learned lessons that have been presented over the last few millennia. Lessons that are not difficult to learn. Things that keep repeating because of the same behavior. And you have to realize that makes us pretty thick. Well, the general population, that makes them pretty thick. And I think there is a definite us and them type thing in this. I think that there are people that just go through life and they go from moment to moment, and they don't care, they don't think, they don't worry about their effect on others. Often they are very sensitive about others and their effect on them, and all of that, I guess, boils back down to a lack of desire to take any form of responsibility. And of course, that goes back to how they were raised, and all the social influence and everything like that, all the programming. I guess. Well, let's start here. I woke up this morning with the intention of doing a relatively motivational type video, and that's one of the things where I've been trying to sort of find my feet with this whole YouTube experience thing, and what to put out there, and what to because it's out in the public domain, and it would be good to influence people in a positive way. And I think sometimes what we get lost in, when we continually try, or when it is within your nature to try and be forward thinking and positive, and try and pull people along with you. I think one of the things that sometimes gets lost in the shadows is the fact that sometimes people need a bit of a dose of reality. And I'm not sure that I've been doing that enough recently. I'm not sure that I've been I don't know that I've been walking the talk too much. I've been a bit too diplomatic, perhaps. Let's put it that way. I think I've been a bit too diplomatic. I've always had the belief that you should treat people with the respect that they deserve. Some some people just make it really, really difficult to respect them. But I've always had the approach of just treating people pretty much in the way that I would like to be treated, unless they treat me in a idiotic way initially, and then I will mirror that. I will give that straight back to somebody, and I don't think that that's an unreasonable approach. But what I do see happening is, because of the tolerance, because of not the acceptance, but the tolerance of stupid behavior on the part of people, they seem to take that as permission. People do stupid things. Yeah, we don't, yes, not all of us are the same, and it would be a boring world if we were. But you have to wonder how it would be if everybody just tried a little bit harder. How would it be if people just didn't do stupid things that inconvenienced others? How would it be if people tried to say things that didn't incite discord? The politicians, for instance, on a daily basis, that's their main currency, doing stupid stuff. And the way in which it is accepted leads me to think that people have been programmed well to tolerate all of that stuff, to their own detriment, of course. But it seems as though people are sheepish enough to not really worry about that, because they're, again, programmed to be immersed in the act of survival on a day-to-day basis. So what's it all about? What sort of sparked this off? And again, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, because at the start of this, I was going to put out a bit of a warning that there could be a couple of expletives used as punctuation. As I sometimes do, as much as I try and remain positive and see the good in things and see the good in people, there are some situations where I will vent my spleen and make it known in no uncertain terms that somebody's been acting like an idiot. And sometimes that has good effect. Sometimes people, of course, the snowflakes melt. Sometimes that doesn't go down well, and well, it doesn't really concern me too much, as long as somebody learns something positive from the situation. And sometimes that's me. Sometimes I learn something from it. Yesterday, as a case in point, we had another fire, yet another one. I think it was probably number 5 for the week, as happens at this time of year when bloody idiots light fires. And when we attended to the fire, I say we, the community, when we started getting control of it, I was very, very unhappy. Well, I was very unhappy to begin with, before even leaving to go to attend to it. And something interesting happened. the at the fire, I had a very loud rant full of expletives. My father wouldn't have been pleased with the language I used. My grandfather had, I'm going off at a bit of a tangent here. My grandfather had this belief. He used to talk about the only reason you had to swear was because you didn't know the correct English words to use, which I find quite amusing. And he's quite right. But in this modern world, every now and then, well, it's quite often actually, but I will use language to multiply the importance of what I'm trying to state. Anyway, I got out there and I was very loud, quite verbose about the situation and how unhappy I was about it. And lo and behold, the person that lit the fire, and bear in mind, I was talking about doing bad things to the person if I found them. And lo and behold, the guy that lit the fire came along with his hands up and said, "Look, I'm sorry, it was me. This is how it happened. It got out of hand." So we had a little bit of a discussion about it, and a little bit of a re-education session, and that's cool. And a really good thing from that came from that was, and I thanked him afterwards for actually having the gumption to come forward and say, "Hey, it was me." And let me tell you, that shows a lot in this day and age. That's quite something actually, because it's not the norm. Normally, whoever did it is not even there to help put the fire out. And this is a simple example of what happens just here in our local community, but I think you can draw parallels between this and other things in life and the way people act in life. But you know what? Kudos to this guy. He came along and he admitted it. He stuck his hands up and he said, "Look, I'm sorry. Got out of hand. I wasn't thinking. Whatever. Did a stupid thing." And you've got to be able to respect that. The fact that the guy can come along when there's 20 people there beating out a fire that could endanger all sorts of things, and it's a pretty serious situation. The fact that he's got the gumption to come forward and say, "It was me," that scores big points. And I think a lot of people can do well to learn from a simple lesson like that. Yeah. There were other things about that incident that pissed me off, but I guess that they're not really worth talking about in the bigger scheme of things. When you look at the rest of what's going on in the country and in the community and in the country and on the planet in general, when you look at what's actually going on and how humanity seems to have lost its way and its mind collectively, there seems to be a great deal of madness. And you have to wonder why. Is it intentional, or is it just an internal repeating self-destruct type mechanism in human nature? What is it? Because that seems to be the path that we're on at the moment. The run towards the cliff and jump off. Or if you don't have the nuts to get, to jump off, well, don't worry, your mates are going to push you off anyway. That seems to be where the world is at the moment, that's a bit screwed up. And hence my comment just now about humans and not learning from history. How is it that you get to a point some thousands of years or millions of years down the road, and you've evolved to a point where you can, as a race, you can design microchips and throw big lumps of metal into the sky and think about going to another planet? How is it that you can get to that point? But we can't seem to deal with the basic stuff, the basic everyday stuff of life here, now. How is it that we can't seem to rise above or go beyond, see beyond the conflict, the constant pissing contest that everybody has, the constant ego-based need for everybody to be right constantly? How is it that we can't see beyond that? It's a valid question, and I think everybody needs to ask it. I'm going to get back to this a little bit later, I think. I've got some more thoughts, and although I don't want to turn this into too long a video, maybe it's worthwhile. Maybe if 3 people watch it and actually watch the entire thing and get something out of it, and it changes the thinking, maybe then it's worthwhile. Maybe then it makes all of this recording, these thoughts, maybe it makes it worthwhile. So I'll like I said in the beginning, this is probably going to be a bit disjointed, a bit chaotic. We'll see how it goes. So it's Monday morning now, and I decided to give up on my little rant yesterday. Well, not give up, but just postpone it, because of the nature of some of the stuff. So here we are on Monday. Bulletproof coffee, sunrise, nice crisp air, birds making a noise in the background, so excuse that. Excuse all the extraneous noise. I'm sure that you'll hear most of this. And if the bird sounds offend you, well, you should ask yourself why. There were a lot of thoughts going through my head yesterday, and they were leading to a place where things were going to get really a bit realistic. So I decided to change the direction of that and go about my day, and then I thought, well, I'd record some more of this today. So here we are, and I've done a bit more trimming on the trees, as you can see. This pile behind me is growing. Carrying on from what I was saying yesterday, or started talking about yesterday, with history and humans learning from it, or rather not learning from it. Why is that? Why do we go through the same things for hundreds of years, for decades, for thousands of years? Why is it that we have records of Greek or Roman philosophers, for instance, not only them but others from other cultures as well, saying relatively wise things that are applicable today? Why is it that we have things from ancient times being applicable today? How is it that we've not, as humans, learned the lesson of what was going on? some thousands of years ago. Why does the cycle repeat? Why do we keep doing the same things? Is it that we don't expect a different result? Is it that we just can't think that far ahead? I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure that there are a good number of people like you, that actually take the time to watch things like this. I'm sure that you do in fact apply a good number of those lessons, or at least put attention towards them and try to learn from them. But why is it that we have billions of people that just exist? They go through the motions. They are born. They are way too resilient to just die. They, in the animal world, not many of those that repeat the same mistakes would actually survive into the next generations. But humans are very resilient, and they survive very easily, in general terms. So how is it? What is it that happens? I mean, they breed, they carry on, they die, and the cycle repeats. Their offspring don't learn. Those that they breed indiscriminately. All of these things. And we end up in a situation where we are today. And let's be honest, we have a mixture of, well, I have a mixed feeling about what's going on today in the world, the way things are being run, the way humans are taking things forward. We have on the one hand a situation where it's a wonderful time to be alive. The technology that exists and is being discovered, all of the stuff, you know what I'm talking about, all the stuff that exists, all of the experiences that one can have as a human, seem somehow to be offset by some of that technology I was talking about. The alarm went off because of a bird flying through the beam. Anyway, wonderful technology and other things. It's an interesting situation in terms of what one can experience in life now at this time. That seems to be offset by sheer stupidity of indiscriminate breeding, and more than the indiscriminate breeding is the behavior of the people. And I wonder if that's some sort of inbuilt protective mechanism, some sort of psychological mechanism for the downfall of the species, because it's reached critical mass. It's reached a point where it's not sustainable. We have this sort of mass psychosis where people are encouraged to do, it seems as though they're encouraged to be just blatantly irresponsible with life, with the opportunity of it, the gift of life, as it were, and what they're able to experience is well, let's think of it this way. Those of us that would like to experience the niceties of life, and not even the niceties, the entirety of life in its complexity and so on, seem to be at a bit of a disadvantage because of the mass of ignorance and stupidity, really. The selfish behavior and the stupidity that goes with this, that seems to go hand in hand with the population explosion and the indiscriminate breeding and the indiscriminate approach to lack of responsibility, it seems as though that is a hindrance to the existence of those that would like to experience life in a meaningful manner, in what we consider a meaningful manner. Now, I might have that completely wrong. I might have it all backwards, and it might just be a thing of paying too much attention to the negatives. It might just be a case of paying too much attention to the fact that there seem to be so many things that are detractive. And part of that is coming from a place of wanting it to be better for everybody, actually, so that they can have a better experience. But then, of course, you need to ask yourself, are some of those people, or are the majority of the people here to actually have a decent experience, or are they just here to exist, to fill the gap, as it were? Lots and lots of questions again. But the question I asked just now about how is it that as a species we seem to have not evolved to a point of being able to learn from history, and that we have records today of people from thousands of years ago saying astute things that should give people pause for thought. Those things should make people sit back and go, things haven't changed much. Things were obviously like this a long time ago. The cycle is repeating. How do we change the cycle? And then, of course, that introduces the question, why do we want to change the cycle? Is it just me? I don't think so. Is it just me that sees the imbalance and the inadequacies and the unsustainable nature of human behavior? And we all know that we can't change the rest of the world. It would be nice to have a button and to be able to push it and everything to come right, but that's not going to happen. And we all know that the only ones that we can change in any meaningful way, we're only able to affect ourselves at an individual level. It's the old story about how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but the light bulb must really want to change, you know. So, and it's like that with us. I find it very sad that individually there are so few people that seem to be interested in actually taking things forward in a sustainable manner for the future and for future generations, for their offspring, taking an active role in the early stages of people's lives, of their children's lives, and giving them some type of direction. And yes, I understand people can only do as best as they can, as best as they know how, and that of course is that's of course part of the problem, because if you don't know any better, well, then you just don't know any better, and you don't do any better, you don't try. But that makes me wonder then, are we genetically predisposed to self-destruction? I'm sure none of this is new. None of these ideas are new. I'm quite sure that these thoughts are the same as someone had in ancient Sumeria or thousands of years ago. I'm sure the issue has existed and probably will exist because of the speed at which it seems humans are able to learn about how to make things go forward. Anyway, I guess that's enough of that for the moment. we had a There was a little chat last night, a little comment online last night, as happens every year with all of these public holidays. Today is Women's Day, I think. I don't pay too much attention to public holidays because I don't consider myself to be really part of the public. You know, we kind of get on and doing what we need to do when we need to do it. So we don't think about getting time off and all of those things with public holidays. But something was said last night on one of the groups online about why do we need a public holiday? Why do we need Women's Day? Why isn't every day Women's Day? And it's a very valid question. How is it that you need one special day every year to treat people nicely, whether it's women or anybody else? Why are you not doing that every single day? Why are you not doing that on a regular basis? Again, it indicates, to a great extent, it indicates the inability of humans en masse to think clearly about the bigger picture. I think the sun coming up behind me is going to probably disturb the picture or something there. I can't actually see what's going on the monitor, so I'm gonna move and change the direction, so you'll have a different pile of branches in the background shortly. Okay, let's hope the sun doesn't get into a position where it messes this all up. Isn't that quite funny? I'm expecting the sun to not get into a position instead of me just moving to a place where it won't be a problem. Always humans trying to make everything else revolve around them. I guess that's another inherent nature in human thinking. So we have a situation where we are repeating the problems, repeating the things that have led to the situation that we have now. Because what we have now globally is a culmination of all of the behavior up until this point. People not being realistic enough, people not being pragmatic, people not being, or people being too tolerant. All of the things that add up to what we have now, what seems to be generally accepted as normal behavior. And of course that's led to a very interesting situation with the powers that be, let's call them that. I don't want to go down the conspiracy theory road too far, but there certainly is a type of elite class that is in control of things. And maybe in a way that's good. Maybe, you know, you've all probably heard the theories about population control and, you know, sterilizing the mob. And well, you've got to ask yourself, were you in a position to do that? Would you? And it's not a very difficult answer. Well, certainly for me, anyway. It's, you know, I'm relatively pragmatic about most things, and it's an interesting question. What would you do if you were running the planet? What would you do if you were managing the future of the planet and its population and its prosperity? What would you do? Would you go out there and sterilize the billions en masse? I think I might, because if you look at the way we have evolved as a species, we're not exactly in a prime position to make this endeavor go forward flawlessly. getting rid of some of the Klingons, well, that might just augur well for everybody. Fewer people seem to make for a better recipe. Talking about fewer people, there's a definite correlation between the number of people that gather together in a community and its effectiveness, its prosperity. And you can see the effect of this online now. Instead of where you had, not within the last 100 years, I mean, we've evolved from this where you had small groups of people, small communities and villages and little towns where you have 100, 150, maybe 200 people, and everybody kind of gets along because everyone's got a place, everyone's got a function. You now have communities, and I'm talking about the psychological aspect of this, of course. You now have communities thousands strong, and in fact millions, hundreds of thousands strong, and millions strong online. And you have to ask yourself, what is the function of all of those people? Are they all together because they just like each other, or is everybody there seeing what they can get out of the situation for nothing? I think that's more to the point. That's more likely. Whereas in the previous types of community situations, you have a few hundred people, small groups, and everybody has their own role to play, and things kind of get along, and they go forward, and the structure almost polices itself because there's accountability and responsibility, and that's a thing that certainly nowadays seems to be missing, is accountability and the understanding of the importance of responsibility and taking responsibility for one's actions. So I wonder what role, in the bigger scheme of things like this, the internet, where you've got millions of people watching all sorts of things and gathering together in little online tribes, I wonder what role that plays in the demise of humanity. On the one hand, it's a wonderful opportunity for humanity to learn, for people to understand the shortfalls. But I'm not sure, well, the shortfalls of the behavior, but I'm not sure that people are anything other than absolutely selfish. And I'm generalizing, of course. Again, seem to be doing a lot of that. Then I think it's a general problem. But I'm not sure that people see the opportunity that they have to learn from information out there on this internet, whatever it is. I don't think that they appreciate the value of it. And it's evolved to a point as well where it's, in its own way, it's a dangerous place. In some instances, even more dangerous than the real world. And that's saying something, because I mean, here in this country, in South Africa, and on this continent, this ranks right up there with dangerous places to be. That's for sure. There's a whole conversation in that about perception and danger and reaction and responsibility, but I won't go into that now. But it is a dangerous place, and again, it's because it's populated by people that seem to be absolutely selfish. And don't get confused here. I'm not opposed to being selfish. One should be looking after oneself first, because unless you do that, you can't help other people come along with you and give them the benefit of your thinking and your life experience, more to the point. You can't do that effectively unless you are to some degree selfish and develop your own means first. That old thing about that I've mentioned multiple times in the past about altruistic behavior being the quickest road to self-destruction holds true here. Even the people that I know that I consider to be of relatively like mind, I see that in them, that they are overly concerned with many things outside of their control, and to their own detriment and to the detriment of others in the long term. Not quite sure where that train of thought about selfishness went, but yeah, I guess it's all coupled to the internet and the potential that it has. And I suppose that something to come from that is, are you being mindful of how you use it, how you interact with those online, that online space? Are you particularly aware of how you are interacting with, or rather how you are allowing your children to interact with that space? I think as parents, all that we should be, or well, one of the things that we should be looking for, pursuing constantly, is the desire for our offspring to be better off than we were. The ability to self-reflect, the ability to be introspective and realize that you are doing what you are doing to the best of your ability because that's all you know. With the proper realization of that should come a desire to some extent to want for the next generation to be better off, to start a little bit beyond where you started down the road. And I think sometimes that's lost. I think sometimes that goes by the wayside because of life. Life gets in the way. Survival gets in the way. Everybody else's agenda gets in the way. Instead of being a little bit selfish, instead of being a little bit self-centered to the point of actually being able to develop your position on the planet, in this time, on this plane, however you view that, to a point of knowing that those that come after you actually have maybe a better chance at when they leave the planet. Maybe they have imparted some of those more sustainable values to their offspring. And the only way that can happen is if you do that and you teach those lessons. And disappointingly, you won't be able to teach all of those lessons because, again, even as much as you would like to think that your offspring would behave like you and be aware, they are individuals. I guess all you can hope to do is to influence them in about the right direction and gently guide and so on. I think one of the things that's led us to the situation that we have on the planet now, with all of the what I see as chaos and what seems to be on a daily basis self-reinforcing irresponsible behavior, what seems to be that, I think one of the things that's led to that is the absence of guidance and proper parenting. And that's a whole story in itself, because in some ways, on some parts of the planet, that has been an intentional endeavor on the part of those people that run countries. No different from the situation we have now, really, with this virus situation, supposedly. Anyway, I'm waffling here. I think I'll stop waffling, save you the pain of that. I might come again back to this a little bit later. We've got some more fruit trees to prune, so we'll do that. Yeah, I think like I started saying yesterday, one of my desires with this stuff, this record keeping, as it were, one of my desires is that some of it is accessible to anyone, that anyone's able to look at it and go, okay, that makes sense. And there's going to be a lot of this stuff that a lot of people are going to not even look at. But if you have the patience, maybe you might learn something about your own existence by being able to reflect on mine or somebody else's. And that's one of the things that has been started with this whole fruit tree pruning lark, is that I want to, with this going forward, make a series of videos where we gather the information from the elderly, those with a bit of wisdom in our community. It's like I said before, there are a lot of them, and the collective experience, the collective life experience, is quite incredible, and it would be a sad thing to waste that. So yeah, anyway, I'll get back to this just now. I think enough waffling. I hope the sun's not being a problem. I'll try and move around a bit just now if this is a bit compromised by the big ball of gas.